It was a bright Saturday morning. Officer Jamal wore jeans, a hoodie, and simple sneakers. No uniform, no badge showing. He looked like any other young black man walking the city streets. But today, he just wanted peace. Jamal had been working all week, long nights, dangerous calls. He saved a child from a burning house 2 nights ago. No one in this cafe knew that. No one cared. He stood in front of the shiny glass door of Hillstone Cafe, a fancy spot downtown. Rich people came here. Suits, expensive dresses, loud laughter. Jamal took a breath and walked in. As soon as he stepped inside, all eyes turned to him. A woman with a diamond necklace clutched her purse. A man in a business suit raised one eyebrow. The waitress behind the counter whispered something to the manager. Jamal smiled kindly. He walked toward a small table in the corner, away from everyone. Before he could sit, a tall young waiter stepped in front of him. "Sir, can I help you?" the waiter asked, his tone sharp. Jamal replied calmly, "Just here for a coffee. Is this table okay?" The waiter looked him up and down. "Actually, sir, this cafe has a dress code." Jamal glanced around. One man wore sneakers, another had a t-shirt. "I didn't see a sign," he said politely. The waiter laughed. "We don't put up signs for common sense." From behind the counter, the manager joined in. "Sir, this cafe is for paying customers. We don't want any trouble." Jamal's smile faded. "I'm not here for trouble, just coffee, and yes, I can pay." A rich woman sitting nearby leaned in and said loudly, "You should check his pockets." People laughed. Jamal looked down, embarrassed. Still, he stayed calm. "I think you should leave, sir," the manager said. Jamal replied, "I'm a police officer. I just want to sit quietly." The manager smirked. "A cop? You? Please, don't lie. It only makes things worse." More laughter. The waiter added, "If you're a cop, where's your badge?" Jamal reached into his pocket, but the manager waved him off. "No, I've seen this before. Flashy lies, fake stories. We're calling security." A teenage girl nearby started filming on her phone. "This is going online," she whispered to her friend. Jamal froze. He didn't want to cause a scene. He didn't want to be that guy in the viral video. The angry one, the loud one. He slowly stepped back, nodded politely, and turned around. As he walked out, someone behind him said, "Betty stole that hoodie too." Jamal's jaw clenched, but he kept walking. Outside, he stood near a lamppost. He looked at the cafe's sign. He didn't cry, he didn't yell, but inside, something was burning. Back inside the cafe, the waiter returned to the counter, laughing. "Did you see his face? That was gold," the manager chuckled. "People like that, always playing victim, always pretending." The rich woman raised her coffee. "To keeping the place clean." Everyone laughed again. Elsewhere, in a small apartment, Jamal sat on his couch. He took out a small black box and opened it. Inside was his badge, Lieutenant Jamal Owens, City Police. He looked at it in silence. His phone buzzed. It was his captain. "You okay?" the captain asked. Jamal replied softly, "They thought I was a criminal. They laughed when I said I'm a cop." "Want me to handle it?" the captain asked. Jamal shook his head. "No, I'm used to it." But his voice was heavy. The captain sighed. "You shouldn't have to be." Jamal looked at the badge again. "I didn't show them this," he said, "because I wanted to see who they really were." Later that night, the cafe was closing. The staff cleaned the tables. The manager counted cash. The teenage girl who had filmed the scene earlier posted the video. She wrote, "They kicked out a black man just for sitting down. He said he was a cop." They laughed. "Watch this." Within minutes, the video started spreading. Likes, shares, comments. What if he really was a cop? This is messed up. They just judged him by his skin. Back in his apartment, Jamal saw the video too. He watched himself get humiliated again, but this time he saw the faces, the smirks, the jokes. He didn't sleep that night. He stared at his badge. The next morning, the cafe opened like normal. But something was different. A man in a suit stood near the door. He had a clipboard. "I'm from City Services," he told the manager. "We received a discrimination complaint." The manager's face dropped. "What? From who?" The man didn't answer. "We'll need to speak with your staff and see your surveillance footage." The staff looked nervous. From a parked car across the street, Jamal watched quietly, still in jeans, still silent. His eyes were calm but cold. He picked up his phone. "Hey, Captain," he said. "I changed my mind." Inside the cafe, things looked normal. Clean tables, smiling waiters, soft music. But something had changed. The manager, Mr. Blake, stood near the counter, scrolling his phone with a worried face. "Have you seen this?" he asked the staff, showing the video. It was the same clip, the moment when they kicked Jamal out. The waiter, Tyler, laughed. "Oh yeah, I saw it. It's going viral." Another waitress chuckled. "Some people in the comments think he's really a cop. As if." Mr. Blake forced a smile. "They're just trying to get attention. Nothing will happen." But deep inside, he wasn't so sure. Just then his phone rang. "Hello?" he answered quickly. A serious voice replied, "This is City Inspection Services. We received a complaint about your staff's behavior." Mr. Blake's heart skipped. That was just a misunderstanding," he said. The voice on the phone continued. "We'll be visiting again tomorrow. Be ready." In another part of the city, Jamal sat inside the police department. Not in uniform, but this time, everyone knew who he was. "Lieutenant Jamal," a young officer greeted him. "Sorry to hear what happened." Jamal nodded. "Thanks." He walked into his captain's office. Captain Rivera stood up and closed the door behind them. "You sure about this?" the captain asked. Jamal nodded. "I gave them a chance. They judged me, laughed. I walked away. Now they learn." The captain placed a file on the table. "We checked the cafe's record. No past issues, but they've never been tested either." Jamal said quietly, "They saw my skin." Not the man. The captain looked at him. "So what's your plan?" Jamal smiled. Not with joy, but with quiet fire. "Let's see how they act when they know who I really am." Back at the cafe, the staff sat in the break room. Tyler leaned back in his chair. "Man, people online are so sensitive. It was just a joke," a waitress added. "Yeah, he should have just shown his badge if he was a real cop." Mr. Blake looked at them. "Don't speak to anyone about this, and don't answer questions from customers. Got it?" They all nodded, still, not taking it seriously. One busboy, Max, looked uncomfortable. What if he really was a cop?" Tyler rolled his eyes. "Then why didn't he say it louder? Why didn't he prove it?" Max didn't answer. He just looked down. That afternoon, Jamal visited someone special, his younger sister, Alana. She was a detective in plain clothes. Alana raised her eyebrows when she opened the door. "You're really going through with this?" Jamal nodded. She smiled. "Good. They messed with the wrong man." Jamal sat down on the couch. "I just wanted a coffee. I didn't even want trouble." Alana said softly, "I know. That's the worst part. You gave them peace and they gave you shame." He looked at her. "I need your help." She nodded. "You'll have it." The next morning, Tyler walked into the cafe holding his phone and a coffee. He noticed a strange silence. A city inspector was talking to Mr. Blake. Another person, a woman in a long black coat, stood near the door. Tyler whispered to a co-worker, "Who's that?" The waitress whispered back, "She says she's a detective." Tyler laughed. "Detective? For what?" The woman turned to them. Her voice was calm but sharp. "Detective Alana Owens, we're reviewing a possible civil rights violation." Tyler froze. "Wait, Owens? Like the same last name?" She nodded. "That man you pushed out, he's my brother, and he's your city's police lieutenant." Tyler's mouth dropped open. In the cafe office, Detective Owens placed a flash drive into the manager's laptop. Here's the video, the full one, recorded by a teenager sitting nearby. Mr. Blake watched himself on the screen, smirking, mocking, accusing. He looked ashamed now. Alana said, "You didn't just kick out a black man. You insulted a leader, a hero." She looked him straight in the eyes. "You thought you were better than him. But he's the one who risks his life for people like you every day." Mr. Blake tried to speak, but no words came. She handed him a paper. "An official complaint. You'll respond to this within 48 hours, or the city shuts you down." Meanwhile, Jamal sat in his car, parked nearby. He didn't go in. He didn't want to be a symbol. He didn't want cameras. He just wanted justice. He looked at his phone. Thousands of messages. News outlets wanted interviews. People were tagging him online, but he said nothing. Let them talk. Let the truth speak louder than him. Inside the cafe, word spread fast. Tyler sat in the break room, silent now. Other staff whispered, "He's really a cop? Lieutenant? That means he's important, right?" Max, the busboy, looked at them and said he was kind. He didn't even yell. We laughed at him anyway. Nobody had a comeback. For the first time, the laughter was gone. Outside, Detective Owens exited the cafe. She saw Jamal sitting in his car. She walked over and smiled. "It's done," she said. "They know now." Jamal nodded. "Thanks, sis." She looked at him for a long time. "You okay?" He paused, then said, "Not yet, but I will be." She nodded and walked away. Jamal looked at the cafe once more, then started his car. The city was talking. Everyone had seen the video. The man they laughed at, pushed out, and judged without a second thought was not just a police officer. He was Lieutenant Jamal Owens, one of the most respected officers in the city. News channels ran the story every hour. Black cop shamed at cafe, until truth shocks everyone. He tried to tell them. They laughed. Now the whole city knows. People were angry, not at Jamal. At the cafe, protesters started gathering outside Hillstone. Cafe. Some held signs. "You judge the uniform, not the man." Respect is not about color. Inside the cafe, things were falling apart. In the manager's office, Mr. Blake wiped sweat from his forehead. His hands shook as he read comments online. "Never going there again." They laughed at a hero. "Shut this place down." The door burst open. Tyler, the waiter, stormed in. "This is crazy," he shouted. "People are sending me threats. My Instagram is full of hate." "Mr. Itai," Blake snapped. "You think I'm not getting hate too?" Tyler threw up his hands. "It wasn't my fault. He could have just shown his badge." Mr. Blake stood up. "We didn't give him a chance, and now we're all paying for it." They stood in silence. Then the door creaked open. It was Max, the young busboy. He stepped inside slowly and said, "You guys were wrong." They both turned to him. Max looked scared, but continued. "You judged him because of how he looked. I watched it happen. I watched you laugh." Tyler rolled his eyes. "Oh, now you're perfect?" Max replied, "No, but I know what I saw, and I don't want to be part of this anymore." Then he dropped his apron on the floor and walked out. At the police station, Jamal stood by a whiteboard giving orders to a team of officers. But even while he spoke, they looked at him differently now. "Lieutenant," one officer said after the briefing, "if you need backup outside that cafe, we're with you." Jamal gave a small smile. "Thanks, but I'm not going back there." Another officer asked, Are you doing an interview? Jamal shook his head. No, I don't want fame. I want change. The room went quiet. Jamal continued. I want people to understand what it feels like, to wear this badge and still be treated like a threat. Everyone nodded. Some looked down, others clenched their fists. Later that day, a sleek black car pulled up to the front of Hillstone Cafe. Two men in suits stepped out. One held a folder marked City Legal Affairs. The manager ran outside. Please, I've already spoken with the inspector. We're fixing things. The man in the suit interrupted. Your business is under official review. You may remain open, but your actions will be investigated. Mr. Blake swallowed hard. This is going to ruin us, the man replied coldly. You ruined yourselves. That night. At a small community event, Jamal stood at the back of a church hall. He wore a simple black jacket, no badge. No uniform, a local pastor spoke into the mic. Lieutenant Owens, he said, please come forward. Jamal stepped up slowly. People clapped. Some stood. Others had tears in their eyes. He stood at the microphone. I didn't ask for this, he began. I didn't want the spotlight. I just wanted a cup of coffee. But what I got instead was a lesson for all of us. The room went silent. They looked at me and saw a threat, he continued. Not a father, not a leader, not a man who risked his life for this city. He looked out at the crowd. We talk about justice, but justice starts when we treat everyone with dignity, not just those who wear a badge. The crowd clapped louder. Some shouted, Yes, sir, and preach. Jamal ended his speech quietly. I forgave them, but I won't forget, and I won't stop speaking the truth. Back at the cafe, Tyler sat alone in the staff room. His phone buzzed again. Message from Mom. Did you really treat a police officer like that? He dropped the phone. His chest felt heavy. For the first time, he realized this wasn't going away. He thought of the moment he laughed at Jamal. Thought about how Jamal stayed calm. How he walked away instead of fighting back. And suddenly, the laughter didn't feel so funny anymore. Meanwhile, Jamal sat in his quiet apartment. He held a picture in his hand, a photo of his late father in uniform. His father had been the first black officer in their small town. Jamal whispered, They laughed at me, Dad, but I didn't break. He placed the photo on the table and picked up his badge. He stared at it for a long time. Then, he made a decision. He opened his laptop and began typing. The sun hadn't even risen yet, but across the city, phones buzzed. Laptops dinged. Notifications lit up like fire. A new post had gone live from Lieutenant Jamal Owens. It was not a video, not a photo. It was a letter. A letter so powerful, people stopped everything to read it. It began simply, To those who laughed at me, judged me, and pushed me out, thank you. You showed the world that even a badge, a title, a uniform can't protect a man from being judged by the color of his skin. But more than that, you reminded the city of something deeper. Respect is not earned by fear. It's earned by humanity. By 7 a.m., the letter had over 2 million views. It was being shared on news sites, school pages, and even by celebrities. Jamal hadn't said a word on camera, but somehow, his silence had been louder than any speech. Inside Hillstone. Café. Mr. Blake read the letter at his desk, hands trembling. Tyler stood near the counter, staring at the same letter on his phone. One part echoed in his head. You didn't ask who I was. You decided who I wasn't. Tyler swallowed hard. A waitress whispered, Did you see this? He didn't even mention names. He just told the truth. Max, the busboy, walked in to return his apron. But this time, Tyler stopped him. Max, he said quietly, I think we owe him an apology. Max didn't answer. He just nodded and walked away. Later that day, Jamal received a call. "Sir," said the officer on the line, "Mayor Johnson wants to speak with you." Jamal raised an eyebrow. "Mayor?" He picked up the second line. "Lieutenant Owens," said the mayor's voice, calm and clear. "Your letter." It hit the city like a storm. Jamal stayed quiet. The mayor continued, "I want you to speak at City Hall, not as an officer, as a citizen, as a voice of reason." Jamal thought for a moment, then replied, "Only if I can speak my truth." The mayor agreed. That's exactly what this city needs. At City Hall. The next day, people lined up outside. Hundreds, reporters, activists, students, business owners, even a few cafe staff, hiding their faces in shame. Jamal stood behind the curtain, wearing a simple black suit. No medals, no rank on his chest. Alana, his sister, smiled at him. "Ready?" He nodded. More than ever. The announcer stepped forward. "Please welcome the man who reminded us all what justice really looks like, Lieutenant Jamal Owens." The room rose to their feet. Loud claps, some cheers, some tears. Jamal stepped to the microphone. He looked out at the crowd, then began, "I was laughed at, not because I was weak, but because I was invisible. I wore no uniform that day, I carried no badge in my hand, and so they saw nothing." He paused. Not a man, not a customer, not even a human. The room went quiet. I wasn't angry that day. I was heartbroken. Because I realized, if they could treat me that way, how many others have they done the same to? A woman near the front nodded, wiping her eyes. I walked away. Not because I was ashamed, but because I refused to become like them. Jamal continued, "This isn't just about me. It's about every person who's been judged too quickly, for their skin, for their clothes, for where they come from." Then he looked directly into the cameras. "To those who laughed, I forgive you. To those who listened, I thank you. To those who still judge, I hope you learn. Avi." Crowd stood again, clapping louder than before. Jamal stepped back, his face calm, but his heart full. Across the city, in living rooms, classrooms, hospitals, and offices, people watched that speech. Some cried, some nodded, some finally understood. One teacher paused her lesson to play it for her students. An old man whispered to his wife, "That young man has more strength than I've ever seen, even at the cafe." The staff watched the speech together in silence. No one spoke until Mr. Blake stood up and said, "We messed up. Bad." No one disagreed. Later that night, Jamal walked quietly through the city, not in a car, not with security, just walking. A little boy and his mother passed him. The boy looked up and whispered, "Mom." "That's the man from the video." Jamal knelt and smiled. "Hey there." The boy smiled back. "Are you really a hero?" Jamal replied softly, "I'm just a man, trying to do the right thing." The boy nodded. "I want to be like you." Jamal stood and looked at the mother. She smiled, tears in her eyes. As they walked away, Jamal whispered, "That's all I ever wanted." Back at home, Jamal placed his badge on the table. But next to it, he placed something new. A copy of his letter. Framed. He sat down, looked out the window, and smiled. Sometimes the loudest voice is the one that speaks with quiet truth. The door of Hillstone Cafe opened slowly. It was early morning, quiet, no customers yet, no smell of fresh coffee, just sunlight pouring through the front windows, and on the glass was a new sign, written in soft gold letters. "Everyone is welcome here." Underneath, taped gently, was a piece of paper. Jamal's new letter. Tyler stood just inside the doorway, staring at it. He had opened the cafe exactly 1 year ago. Back then, he thought he knew everything. But today, everything felt different. Max entered next, carrying a fresh box of coffee beans. He saw the sign and paused. "You think people will come back?" Tyler didn't answer right away. Then he said, "I don't know, but I think we're ready to try." They stepped inside, and for the first time in weeks, they didn't just open the cafe, they opened their hearts. Across the street, Jamal watched from inside his car. He saw Tyler cleaning tables. He saw Max arranging chairs. He smiled softly. Then he grabbed something from the passenger seat, a simple wooden box. Inside it was the award he had received last week, and something else. He crossed the street and opened the cafe door. The bell rang. Heads turned. Tyler froze, but Jamal walked in calmly, wearing a plain jacket. No badge, no uniform, just himself. "Morning," he said. Tyler stood still. Jamal, you serve breakfast?" Max jumped in. "We do. Eggs, toast, fruit, and the best coffee in town." Jamal chuckled. "All right then." He sat down. Tyler slowly approached. "Can I take your order?" Jamal smiled. "Sure. Let's start over." As Max brought over a plate, other customers began to walk in, one by one. Some were curious. Some were quiet. Some had seen the video. Others just wanted a safe place to sit. An older woman walked up to Jamal. "You don't know me," she said. "But thank you." She placed a small flower on his table. Another man came by, a teenager, nervous. "I want to be a cop one day like you." Jamal gave him a nod. "Then promise me something." The boy leaned in. "Serve with kindness," Jamal said, "even when no one's watching." The boy smiled. "I will." Later that morning, Jamal stood up. He opened the wooden box and pulled out his award. Then he handed it to Tyler. Tyler was shocked. "What? Why are you giving me this?" Jamal said. "Because it belongs here, not to me, to this moment, to this new beginning." He looked around. "Put it somewhere people can see it. Not to remind them of the mistake, but to show..." What came after? Tyler nodded slowly. "Thank you. We won't forget." Jamal pointed to the wall. "Put it right there." And that's where it went, next to a photo of the new cafe staff. Black, white, young, old, all smiling. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. The cafe added a new policy: free coffee for on-duty officers, teachers, and nurses. They started a community table where anyone could sit, talk, and share their story. And every Monday, Max read letters from customers who felt seen and respected. One letter said, "I came here after losing my job. Someone offered me a warm meal and a kind smile. That gave me the strength to keep going." Another said, "This cafe gave me my first real conversation with someone different from me, and now we're friends." As for Jamal, he didn't become a hero. He just kept being himself, working, volunteering, helping kids with school, and sometimes sitting quietly in the cafe, reading a book near the window. People would nod at him. Some would thank him. But he never let the praise change him, because he knew what really mattered: respect, kindness, and walking away with dignity, even when no one claps. One evening, Jamal returned to the cafe after work. Alana sat with him, smiling. "Remember that day?" she asked. "When they told you to leave?" Jamal nodded. "I do." She leaned forward. "Feels like a lifetime." Ego. He looked around. The lights were warm. The laughter was real. "It was the worst day of my life," he said quietly. "But also, the day everything began," Alana whispered. "That's what real stories are made of. It started with a single message." Jamal woke up to a ping on his phone, then another, then 10 more. He rubbed his eyes. 6:03 a.m. He opened one message. It was a flyer. Bold letters across the top read, "Stand with respect. City Walk for Unity. Location, Hillstone Cafe, City Hall. Time, 10 a.m. Underneath was a picture of Jamal, not in uniform, just him smiling. Standing in front of the cafe window, Jamal blinked. He didn't create this. He didn't plan it. But someone had. And now, the whole city was talking. By 8 a.m., the streets were already filling. News cameras lined the sidewalks. People wore t-shirts that said, "Walk with Dignity." Children held signs like, "My hero wears a smile, not just a badge." Tyler, Max, and Alana stood outside the cafe, trying to keep up with the crowd. "It's happening," Alana whispered. "It's really happening." Jamal stood nearby, unsure of what to do. He wasn't used to this kind of attention. "I didn't ask for a parade," he said. Tyler replied, "It's not a parade, man. It's a thank you." At exactly 10 a.m., a soft voice came through the speakers. It was the mayor. She didn't make a long speech. She simply said, "Today we don't walk because one man was disrespected. We walk because he taught us what respect really means." Then, she turned to Jamal. "Will you lead us?" Jamal hesitated. Then he nodded slowly. "Yes." He stepped forward. And the crowd began to move. Thousands walked behind him. Old people, young people, teachers, officers, nurses, people who had never talked to each other before, walking side by side, no anger, no shouting, just calm steps, footsteps full of meaning. Jamal held. No sign, no speech. Just the same calm face he wore the day he walked out of that cafe. And that was enough. The walk took 2 hours. Along the way, people handed out free water. Some played soft music. Others shared hugs. One small girl reached up to Jamal and gave him a paper heart. It said, "Thank you for being strong when the world was weak." He held onto it tightly. When they reached City Hall, a large banner hung across the steps. "Respect begins here." The mayor stood again and raised her hand. This city has seen pain. It's seen mistakes. But today, it sees hope. She looked at Jamal. "And we owe a part of that to you." The crowd clapped. But Jamal held up his hand. He stepped forward to the mic. "I didn't walk here today to be a hero," he said. "I walked to show we're better than hate." He looked around. "I'm not the only one who was judged. Many of you were too. For your color, your job, your faith, even your silence." He paused. "But today, we showed something different. That respect is a choice, a daily decision." He looked up at the sky, then back at the crowd. "We can't change the past, but we can choose what kind of future we walk toward." When he stepped down, the applause didn't stop for 5 minutes. People cried. Some prayed. Others just stood, quietly, letting the moment wash over them. In that moment, the city didn't feel divided. It felt whole. Later that day, back at the cafe, someone put up a new frame on the wall. Inside, it was a photo from that morning, Jamal walking at the front of the crowd, a little girl holding his hand. Below it, a plaque read, "The day our city walked with dignity." In honor of Lieutenant Jamal Owens. Jamal didn't stay long at the cafe. He quietly left through the back door, carrying the paper heart the little girl had given him. He drove to the old community center where his father once worked, and on Ain. The wall there, he hung the heart. Right next to his father's picture, he whispered, "We did it, Dad. We did it." And from that day on, people didn't just remember the badge. They remembered the man, the one who walked away with silence, who came back with grace, who spoke when it mattered, and healed what hate tried to break. The street outside Hillstone Cafe was no longer quiet. It was full. People stood shoulder to shoulder, holding signs, chanting softly. Respect all people. Justice starts with dignity. We stand with Jamal. Some wore shirts with Jamal's name. Others held copies of his letter, waving it in the air like a flag. But no one was shouting angrily. This protest was calm, powerful, like a storm moving slowly but surely. Inside the cafe, the air was tense. Mr. Blake stood near the window, watching the growing crowd. His hands trembled as he whispered, "They're not going away." Tyler sat on a stool near the counter, face pale. "They're not yelling, they're not throwing anything. But somehow this feels worse. Because they're not just angry," Max, the busboy, said quietly. "They're disappointed." No one had an answer to that. Outside, the protest grew. A young woman stepped onto a milk crate. Her voice rose above the quiet crowd. "My brother was treated badly at this same cafe last year. They said he looked suspicious just because he wore a hoodie. He cried for days, but no one believed him." She held up Jamal's letter. "This letter, this man, gave my brother hope again." The crowd clapped, soft but strong. Another man, an elderly teacher, stepped forward. "I taught Jamal in school. He was kind, smart, quiet, always helping others. He deserved better than how he was treated." More people came forward, one by one, story by story. Back inside, Mr. Blake turned away from the window. "We can't run the cafe today. No one's coming in. No one wants our food. They want the truth." Tyler looked down. "What do we do?" Max spoke up. "We apologize." Mr. Blake stared. "You think that's enough?" Max shook his head. "No, but it's the start." For a long moment, no one said a word. Then Mr. Blake walked into the back, opened a box, and pulled out a microphone with a small speaker. He came back and looked at Tyler. "You're coming with me." Tyler looked terrified, but he followed. Outside, the cafe doors opened. The protest went quiet. Mr. Blake stepped onto the steps holding the mic. Tyler stood beside him. Max stood just behind. People turned. Cameras pointed. Phones raised. Mr. Blake cleared his throat. I'm the manager of Hillstone Cafe. My name is Daniel Blake." He paused. "And I came here today not to defend myself, not to make excuses. I came to say something simple. We were wrong." The crowd stayed silent, watching. I laughed. I judged. I ignored a man's pain right in front of me. That man was Lieutenant Jamal Owens, and he deserved better. He handed the mic to Tyler. Tyler's hands shook. He looked down at his shoes, then up at the crowd. "I was the one who told him to leave." His voice cracked. "I thought I was being careful. I thought I was protecting the cafe." He took a breath. "But the truth is, I was protecting my own fear, and my fear hurt someone who didn't deserve it." Tyler looked into the crowd. "I'm sorry, Lieutenant Owens. Truly." He handed the mic back to Mr. Blake and stepped down. Few people clapped softly. Others just nodded. Then Max stepped forward and took the mic. "I watched all of this. I said nothing. I was scared." He paused, voice calm. "But now, I want to be the kind of person who speaks up." He looked at the crowd. "Let's all do better, please." He stepped down. The protest was still quiet, but the silence now felt warmer. Forgiveness was in the air, not fully, not yet. But it had started. At home, Jamal watched it all. His sister, Alana, sat beside him on the couch. She stared at the screen. "They really did it," she whispered. Jamal leaned forward. He saw Tyler apologizing, Mr. Blake owning his actions, Max stepping up. Then the camera zoomed in on one sign in the crowd. He walked out quietly, but now the whole city hears him. Jamal didn't smile, not yet, but he nodded slowly. Later that evening, there was a knock at Jamal's door. He opened it to find Tyler alone. nervous. Holding a brown envelope, Jamal raised an eyebrow. "You came here?" Tyler nodded. "I had to. Not just to say sorry, but to listen." Jamal stepped aside and let him in. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Tyler placed the envelope on the table. Inside was a handwritten letter. "I wrote this before the protest," Tyler said quietly. "Didn't think I'd get the courage to come." Jamal opened it, read a few lines, then looked up. "You know," he said, "it's easy to speak in front of a crowd. It's harder to show up face to face." Tyler looked down. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness." Jamal replied, "No one deserves it. That's why it's called grace." They sat in silence again. Then Tyler stood. "Thank you for your time." Jamal nodded. "Thank you for changing." Outside, the city was quiet. The protest had ended, but something had begun. Not just an apology, but awareness. And awareness, Jamal knew, was how real change started. He looked out at the night sky and whispered, "Let's see what tomorrow brings." The invitation came in a white envelope. No return address, no fancy writing, just one sentence on the card. "You are requested to attend the annual City Honor Gala. Formal dress. 7 p.m. sharp." Jamal stared at it. He wasn't sure why he got it. He hadn't applied for anything. And he definitely didn't feel like celebrating. That week had been full of emotions. People were still talking about the protest. Some were still angry. Some wanted justice. Others were finally waking up. But Jamal? He just wanted peace. He had gone back to work. Quiet shifts, no attention. He didn't want to be a symbol. He just wanted to serve. So when Alana saw the envelope, she smiled. "You have to go." Jamal raised an eyebrow. "Why?" She crossed her arms. "Because you changed something. You may not see it yet, but the whole city does." The night of the gala arrived. City Hall was glowing. Golden lights, red carpet. Everyone wore suits, gowns, and shiny smiles. Jamal arrived late, in a black suit, simple and clean. No medals. He didn't even wear his badge. He walked in quietly, not expecting anything, but the moment he stepped into the room, everyone turned. People stood. Applause filled the air. Cameras flashed. Faces lit up. Jamal froze. The mayor stepped forward with a warm smile. "Lieutenant Owens, welcome." Jamal blinked, confused. "What is this?" The mayor replied, "You'll see." He was guided to the front table. Next to him sat judges, police chiefs, doctors, and even teachers, people of every background. But Jamal felt out of place. He leaned toward the mayor. "I didn't do anything special. I just told the truth." The mayor looked at him and said softly, "That's exactly why you're here." The host stepped onto the stage. The music stopped. The room went silent. She smiled and said, "Tonight, we honor those who have changed our city. Not with power, not with fame, but with courage." She paused. "One man didn't throw punches. He didn't scream. He didn't fight back with hate. He fought back with grace." The lights dimmed. A video began to play on the large screen. The crowd watched and gasped. They saw Jamal sitting quietly in the cafe, then being told to leave, then walking out, calm, silent, while people laughed. Next came clips from the protest, from the speech at City Hall, from interviews with children, teachers, and strangers who were touched by his letter. Then the screen went black, and one sentence appeared, "He walked away with dignity and came back with a message." When the lights returned, the host's voice echoed, "Please welcome this year's Human Dignity Award winner, Lieutenant Jamal Owens." The room stood, clapping, cheering. Some people even cried. Jamal stood slowly, his heart racing. He walked to the stage. No paper in his hand, no speech prepared, just truth. He looked out at the sea of faces, then took a deep breath. I didn't expect this. I didn't ask for this. He paused. I didn't speak up because I wanted attention. I spoke because I was tired. Tired of being judged before being known. Tired of pretending to smile when it hurt. Tired of people assuming who I am before they ask my name. He looked down at his hands. These hands wear a badge, but they also carry groceries, write letters, hold children, shake strangers' hands. He looked back up. I'm not just a cop. I'm a brother, a son, a man, a human being. The crowd listened in complete silence. Jamal continued. There are people in this room who changed their thinking this week, and that's good. But don't let it stop here. He pointed gently toward the camera. Let's change how we look at each other. Not just when something goes wrong, but every day, in every place. He nodded. Because the real award is when we stop needing awards just to be treated like we matter. Then he stepped back. The crowd clapped again, this time longer, louder. Later that night, as Jamal left the gala, a young woman approached him. She held her daughter's hand. Mr. Owens, can I just say thank you? Jamal smiled. You already did. The little girl looked up. Are you a superhero? Jamal knelt down and whispered, Only on Tuesdays. She giggled and hugged him tight. The mother wiped a tear. You gave people hope again. As Jamal walked to his car, the award in hand, he stopped for a moment. He looked up at the stars. Dad, he whispered, I hope you're proud. He thought of his father, a man who had also worn the uniform, who once told him, Your badge will open doors, but your heart, that will change lives. And tonight, that truth felt more real than ever, at home. Jamal placed the award next to the framed letter. Then he sat down and wrote something new on a clean sheet of paper. The fight isn't over, but tonight, we took a step. He folded it. Tomorrow, he would place it on the cafe's front window, because healing doesn't happen in one day, but it starts when someone is brave enough to lead the way.